Good evening. Oh, it's a deep pleasure to be here with you this summer evening, the 1st of June, still in the Memorial Day weekend spell, feeling that, and at the very beginning of our time together planting life and celebrating the power of traditional ecological knowledge and persistent culture, the culture of kinship. So I am extremely grateful to be present in person, very much in person, here as a grateful guest in Tewa country, the territory of the ancient ones, the Anasazi, the first people of the Rio Grande Valley, still strong, vibrant, teaching, mysterious, alive, and to practice with you, to be in this breathing room together, whether in person or in the wider world Sangha, this extraordinary room, supported by the great trees, the standing dead of the Lincoln Forest, and this roof that opens to the sky, this floor that hides a huge Enso circle, encouraging us in the direction of deep practice. And to celebrate, please, for those of us in the room, do look and acknowledge Green Tara, Mayumi Oda, the artist who painted this tanka, celebrates her birthday tomorrow. So we join her in gratitude, and with particular gratitude for Roshi Joan Halifax and this Circle of the Way practice, and each of you. I feel in this room the grammar of animacy of teaching and breath, your breath and life force. In this breathing room and throughout the wider community, really feeling the practice of socially engaged Buddhist training and teaching, really feeling the practice of being with dying, the chaplains who again and again beg the universe to increase their bewilderment so they can keep working on the front lines. And gratitude, of course, to the root teachers of this temple, to the peacemakers, radical peacemakers who aren't afraid to not know, to bear witness, and to take compassionate action. I feel it's important that we're beginning on Memorial Day weekend. You know, years ago, practicing with Thich Nhat Hanh, he asked us as North Americans to choose 2 holidays during the year for deep practice. And we chose, with his guidance, we chose November 11th, Armistice Day, the laying down of arms. And this weekend, Memorial Day, remembering the dead, Je me souviens. He loved the license plate of Canada, Je me souviens, I remember the dead. And the dead are always with us. So, supported by the standing dead trees, we recognize what an extraordinary time to be alive. More than 6 million people, mostly people who've had to work on consistently during the pandemic, have joined the great majority, and we remember them this weekend. We remember the named and unnamed, and we remember the ancestors at our backs. It is important to call their names too. This is the 101st anniversary of the race massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We do not turn away from that truth. It's welcome in this hall and in our practice. Welcome is a little strong, but it fills us with vigor to know this cannot continue, and yet it does. We meet it, we don't turn away. And we turn toward Haudenosaunee, Seneca, Keepers of the Western Door Territory, Buffalo, New York, Tops Market, a scant few weeks ago, 10 people murdered, 10 African-American people murdered in cold blood. And then Robb Elementary School in the heartland of the Comanche, Native peoples that have been present for 11,000 years. The center of the country, Uvalde, Texas, a place of peace, honey and great oaks, and the murder of 21 people in cold blood, children and their teacher. This truth, this remembering, animates us and lights the fire of our intention. And fire, I choose that word well. Last night, waking up here in northern New Mexico, where fire has been burning, the largest fire in this country has consumed more than 300,000 acres. A conflagration, an infernal fire. Waking at night, the wind was bearing down on this temple, chairs skittering across the portal, the trees moaning, and the scent of smoke everywhere. Everything, oh bhikkhus, is burning, from Calf Canyon, merging with Hermit's Peak, extending from the Pecos Wilderness to Taos. We pray for the survival and health of the many beings that are in the path of fire. And recognize that 50% of this country is in extreme drought, 50% of the United States. Of course, California, the country that I'm from, everything, oh bhikkhus, is burning. In the Buddhist world, fire consumes itself. It shines by perishing. And for me, is a vivid call to wake up and come to service. And last night, when I heard the wind and actually got up and went outside and stood in the wind and remembered a line that's been very important for me in the last month from an artist in New York City. Her name is Heather Christian. I commend her work to you. Theater in Quarantine. Let yourself, she said, and I remembered it last night, let yourself get unused to how it was. The night, and this was true last night, the night will wipe your memory if you let it. We will not be going back. Let yourself get unused to how it was. The night will wipe your memory if you let it. We're not going back. We're going right into the fire. And you know, fire, the element fire, is consolidated in the heart of a seed, a burning kernel. To discern is to shake a sieve and separate what is chaff and to be blown off in the threshing hall from deep, rich seed. The fire, the kernel of fire, intensified spark of new life. And this is a weekend when we are celebrating, even though we know the facts. We're not going back, we're going ahead into this dangerous, critical, crucial time. And we're going in together this weekend to celebrate the mystery of life, planting life and plunging, thank you, Bernie, plunging into the truth of traditional ecological knowledge with native leaders, extraordinary guides who are joining us to teach us, artists, supremely gifted artists, and scholar activists of the highest caliber, joining us to remind us that the indigenous world shares ancestry and origin in a family circle of vibrant, kin-centric ecology. I'm so happy. I'm so moved and motivated by that word, kin, kind, kinship. Let me just do what I always do to you and read you some of the etymology. Kin means a person's family, one's relatives, the person closest to you by blood. And it's suffixed from the German race, family, kin, kindred, kind. The root, old root, gen, to give birth, to beget, to be pregnant, to generate, genre, gender, engender, generous, germinate, go, kinship. So kin-centric knowledge is what binds us and makes us family, Dharma family. The wind of the family house, we say in Japanese Buddhist tradition. What is the wind of your family house? That means the tomato family or the great Solanums have their own scent and sound and song and language. Whether you're a tomato, a potato, a great chimayo chili, a lovely purple eggplant, you have a certain dangerous, poisonous, and powerful wind. It is the wind of your family house. And kind speech comes from speaking with regard for family, for the family of humankind and the more than humankind. So how wonderful that we have this very word. And I'll go back to it after a bit. You know, on Sunday night, the new moon, this retreat really began, and it began in this room for me. Coming in as a visitor, so grateful to be home with my Dharma family. And to hear the call to come together and cross the threshold into the gate of sweet nectar, which is the source of the kernel of fire within a seed, because nectar and pollen, the families of the nectar lovers and the pollen kernels or granules, the granular way of pollen, are included in the gate of sweet nectar. So I'm going to ask you audibly and ask Kigaku to lead us in the opening chant. Gather round, gather round. I'm just going to read a little bit. Calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time, you who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this Bodhi mind. So let's take a deep breath in and fill the room with this intention to call out to hungry hearts and deeply listen and chant along, please, as you know.
Calling out to hungry hearts, everywhere through endless time, you who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this Bodhi mind. Calling all you hungry spirits, everywhere through endless time, calling all you hungry hearts, all the lost and left behind, gather round and share this meal, your joy and sorrow, I make it mine.
On the year of Bernie's, I think it was 76th or maybe 78th birthday, I had the deep pleasure of being part of a pilgrimage with he and Shantam Seth and my daughter, Elisa. We were in India, in Mother India, and at twilight we walked up to Vulture Peak with Bernie. And right at the edge of dark, he asked his Sangha, the Peacemaker Sangha, to chant this chant for all the hungry hearts. And so the first time I heard it was there on Vulture Peak. And it's always so meaningful for me to be present with you when once a month we chant this chant and open the gate and step into the garden and make the pledge. I will plant life and feed a hungry world unconditionally, unstoppably, reverently and irreverently, and without pause. Plunge in. And so we plunged in, remember? We plunged in. It was night, and the moon was new, and so was our intention. And we went out and circled the garden and chanted this chant, and then began to inscribe circles and pathways and new beds in this garden. And for friends who don't know, Upaya Zen Center has a wonderful, voluptuous vegetable garden dedicated to the ancient ones, to the three sisters and their protectors, corn, bean, squash, and a wide retinue of other plants, right at the gateway to the temple, right at the nectar gateway to this temple, with a big windmill turning above, sending shadows and a spell of prayer around. And these crops were given to us, entrusted to us respectfully and generously from the Native community in Santa Clara Pueblo lands 11 years ago. And we've faithfully planted them, these relatives. It's not exactly appropriate for me to appropriate that term, but they are relatives. Taking these relatives and entrusting them to the ground, these burning seeds of fire, entrusting them to the ground. In every garden, this is such a deep Zen saying, although it's from a kind of snooty English horticulturalist from the 1500s. He said, every garden is a ground plot for the mind. Ground plot for the mind. And so how do you plot your mind stream and your intention to plant life and grow justice on the living earth with whom we are in deep relationship, in the elemental world of earth, air, water, fire, and space? How do we plot the mind and ask the ground to work in concert with us, in kinship with us, and create a beautiful banquet for hungry spirits, all the lost and left behind? And that's always a question, and it's always a fresh question. It was fresh this year. This is the driest year in northern New Mexico since the late 1890s. We are not going to waste a single drop of water. And these are the ancient ones. These are the sisters who know how to live a lean life. If planted well and carefully and watered with mindful awareness and an intense wish for the well-being and nutrition of the world, they grow. They grow mightily. They need very little water. I made the mistake years ago at Tassajara Zen Mountain Center, having received a handful of Hopi blue corn seed from the Hopi Nation, the oldest indigenous nation in this country. From the Hopi Nation, and it was such precious seed. I took it to the gateway, I bowed, kowtowed, did all kinds of ceremony. I was young and a little bit more, less grisly and dangerous than I am now. I planted, with lots of prayer and a long hose, a great hulking mound of blue corn and watered it with prayer bows. I love you, blue corn. May you grow and feed a hungry world. I had that right, but luckily, we also planted a handful outside of the garden and forgot about it. The corn at the gate reached a good 12 feet. It glistened with such terrifying vigor that people stepped back whenever they came into the garden. Whereas the corn in the neglected site in the 116-degree heat of Tassajara grew stubby, intense, powerful, laden with blue corn. Don't water the ancient one. Corn doesn't want it. So we adjusted, we're adjusting. The garden will primarily be dedicated to corn, the eldest of the, we say the eldest, actually the eldest of the sisters, and I love to, excuse me for being so binary and boring and predictable, but the eldest, because I am the eldest of two beautiful sisters, and I'm their, crone hag eldest sister. So the eldest sister in the plant kingdom, no kings. The eldest sister in the plant kingdom is squash, the one who runs on the ground and covers the earth and protects and carries her seed inside because she's a fruit. Inward seeds of fire in her round, perfect container. Whereas corn is promiscuous, beautiful beyond measure. Each kernel contains a fire of intentionality. Corn has been misused mightily over the ages and taken to the marketplace and penetrated with genetically modified organisms. We are planting. Our intention is to plant the great blue corn of the Tewa world. Beautiful gift of corn will be the only corn we plant here, so she can mix and marry with her own and deal with it. There won't be any other colored corns coming to the party. Just blue corn in the center of the garden. And around the inner rectangle, twining vines, as Dogen spoke of, twining vines of beans, the trickster, 9,000 years old, a little younger than corn, 9,000 years old. Beans climb in the world from which they come, South American, southern and Central America. Bean is carried along the old indigenous highways, pathways between Aztec and in the Aztec and Incan worlds as a gift. So you hand a handful of beans. Runners would run along the high road and pass a hand of beans as news, northeast, west, south. Great acronym, northeast, west, south. Read the future in a handful of beans. And you read the future because beans are pure protein, drawing nitrogen from the atmosphere and fixing it on the roots underground and nourishing the earth. My secret power, I nourish the earth, says Bean to the travelers. So Bean is trickster, traveler, and also great sovereign gift. It's the only member of the trinities that we're planting that doesn't mix it up with others. Sovereign. It keeps to its own code, to the code of Bean. So we'll plant beans also. They're called in the Seneca Nation, from the Seneca Nation in northern, I'll say in Buffalo, Keepers of the Western Door. This bean is called the bear's paw bean because it has a print a little like a bear's paw. It's a big, powerful bean. Here we know it as the scarlet runner. So a gift from the Seneca Nation to us, and also from this bioregion. So all authentic local seed that has acclimatized to this very garden and place. And we've been keeping the seed, eating a little bit of it, but we also mean this weekend to feast, to taste the truth of the Tathagata's teaching in the great stew, a succotash of corn, beans, and squash. And gratitude to the kitchen for nourishing us. And also gratitude to the gardeners and the cooks here at Upaya for being so precise with the seed so that this year we'll make a special pilgrimage and return to Roxanne Swensel and her family the seed she entrusted us with so many years ago. To bring a gift of good seed back to the source. Water returns to the source, we say, or seed returns to the maker, to the growers, to their kin. I want to see my people, says the bear paw bean in its own language. And what about me, says corn, the queen of crops. And take me home too, says the lowly squash. And squash, 11,000 years old, maybe a little younger, 10,000 years of planting and growing. And we look to the ancient world, new world, for the seeds that are older even than corn. She has an ancestor, Teosinte, grows outside of the garden and refreshes the gene pool regularly. So it's traditional. And in this, on Saturday, we will, Kedo Fernandez will take a handful of Teosinte and plant it in a secret place so that its pollen can blow back and refresh the corn. And bean has an ancestor too, not very edible, very hard shelled. And squash has an ancestral sister or lineage or kin that is so important for the world. A team of biologists a number of decades ago, forgive me those of you who heard this story, but it's always good to tell it, traveled to northern Mexico in search of the ancestor of squash. Some of the best botanical teachers, and they fanned out over the countryside looking, and the leader of the team was a wonderful botanist. Said, is there a curandera in the neighborhood? A person who understands the lore of plants, is in kindred relationship to the plants? Yes, but you don't want to visit. Her garden is a mess. I do want to visit, he said. And I have gifts. So he went with gifts, and he met curandera. They had a long time in the garden together. And toward the end of their visit, he asked if she might know the old squash, the one before all the calabazas. And she said, oh, yes, of course. May I see this plant? He asked. This is from Gary Paul Mabham, Enduring Seeds. Readers, one of the best books on earth, Enduring Seeds. He followed her to the edge of the garden, and pressed against the fence was the ancient one. Not in the garden, but pressed against it. I want to see what my kin are doing, but I don't want to come in. I'm too wild. So we recognize this wildness and deep, yes, Kigaku, radical fecundity. He's been teasing me mercilessly behind the standing dead. Yes, radical fecundity of the ancient ones. The original instructions, as Dr. Melissa Nelson says, the original instructions continue to be originated. The original face of those instructions is turning toward us now as the moon grows wider and asking us, can we dance? Can we have a distressed dance of human and world together? Can we enact the approach to living in this world compassionately and vividly? Can we do it? Can we be nourished? Johego, they're called and for many years I worked with my beloved friend and teacher. She's a teacher and a colleague, Melissa Nelson, who'll be with us. Also for about 11 years now, we've been planting the white corn of the Seneca Nation, given as a gift from David and Wendy Bray, lots of Wendys. David and Wendy Bray bringing us a handful of white corn, entrusting it to us, Seneca Oneho Ogen, the traditional corn of the Seneca people. And Wendy Bray, who's in her 30s, and a young farmer from Minnesota with whom I was working. Together, he's a corn farmer, went into the fresh ground of Indian Valley and planted this white corn. And Wendy's parents, David and Wendy, Kaylina, who's the person who planted the corn, her parents were there, and they taught us that when you plant three sisters in the ground, you plant Johego, our life sustainers. Each seed is a 3-in-1 body. So the body of corn carries and indicates and gestures to the body of bean and squash, and so on and so forth, in a kin-centric circle. Kindred spirits, intimate language, a grammar of animacy, as Dr. Robin Kimmerer says in Braiding Sweetgrass. And Roxanne reminding us again and again that 20 generations, it takes 20 generations for DNA to consolidate and develop into a sovereign seed. 20 generations. The lifespan, at least, of the Tewa world. 20 generations to generate kinship and to be truthful. And then there's a little play in there too. DNA, again, from Melissa Nelson. She reminds us, oh, DNA? In the indigenous world, rife with traditional ecological knowledge, DNA is real clear. Descendants in ancestors. Descendants and ancestors. So we should play. Seeds make us playful. But it's also important to recognize their fragility if we forget, and we have forgotten. We've forgotten that although Native American people in this country are responsible for 4% of the most extraordinary biological diversity and land territory, that 700 distinct tribes speak their language and remember the code and continue the code, but they are excluded from land, the capacity to really tend and live on good land. The largest population in the Bay Area, the largest intertribal population is in the San Francisco Bay Area, Coast Miwok territory, and yet they have the least access to land. That is not kind, it's not good kinship, and it needs to be changed. We taste the truth of these foods. These are the foods of the ancient ones and their human tenders. And we will not, in this retreat, turn away from this truth. This is not just a nice little corned bean squash party. It's a commitment. We're not living by the vow. We're living in the vow to grow this food and make sure it nourishes right relations. And we have the privilege, I know I can speak for myself. I have the privilege to be very grandiose about this, but I'm also very down to earth. And we are talking about going down to earth. And we're talking about prayer into action. So we're really grateful for this afternoon's time with Marilyn, handling indigo, dip dyeing cloth, so that this community can create prayer flags to also ring around the garden on the top. So prayer flags, the wind blows through the indigo prayer flags that you're dyeing and designing and going to be festooning the garden with. Prayer blows through the flags, offering our commitment to a burning world, to a smoky sky. At the same time, we go down into the ground. And this word, going down into the ground, Grund, it's actually the name of a bottom-feeding fish, the bottom of the world. To ground a ship, to be grounded in groundlessness. We're light with that and familiar with that in the Zen world, just like we are with boundlessness. But no, boundlessness and groundlessness are a big, strong call to us right now, to be boundless in our intention and to go down to the bottom of the ground and face the abyss, which is generated at the bottom of the ground. So when we put a living seed in the ground, our intention is to ask this seed in relationship to all that is, to go down, to bring up the radical darkness, to open up into the light, very much in the same gesture as the old disco dances, or the mudras, as above, so below. Throughout the human world, I, in my body-mind, carry a full world, some promise from the Buddhist world. And for this, we need protection. We need protection now, going into the third month since this senseless war in Eastern Europe began. Do you know a few? I didn't know. I was very moved to hear that one of the greatest repositories, one of the 10 most important seed banks in the world, was deliberately bombed by Russia. It's in Kharkiv, in the Ukraine. 160,000 races of seed, land races, and seed that was prepared for planting was obliterated in the bombing. The 10th largest seed bank in the world. They will be regenerated, as was the work at Leningrad by Vavilov, a Russian botanist. Seed cannot be stopped. The fire of seed is incandescent. But still, we need protection from this kind of lunacy. So gratitude to Terry, who gathered these sunflowers, and Veronica from the marketplace. And gratitude to the students at Upaya who put temporal flowers on the altar for this time. And there's a little bowl, take a look at it, of soil, the Penistaha soil here of New Mexico, which is bone dry, arid soil, about 40% shale and stone, as dry as it comes. And I mixed it with a little soil that I brought to Roshi from the Makah Nation in the Olympic Peninsula, rich, thick. A handful of it contains more human beings, more microbes than there are human beings on Earth. More human beings too, because we're kindred. In that little pulsing tiny bowl of soil at the base of the sunflowers here in this altar. And we will sit in this room and we'll watch these flowers in their glory turn their faces, their complex faces, 1,000 to 4,000 interlock each seed in a sunflower as we taste them too, and as we stand in front of the disc of the sunflower, 1,000 to 4,000 little tiny seeds. Each seed is a flower, composite, compound, complex, incomprehensible, the face of a sunflower. 34 interlocking spirals in the face of a sunflower, the national flower of the Ukraine. 34 interlocking spirals. They run clockwise from the center, and then they merge and turn back counterclockwise in a Fibonacci series, a sequence of extraordinary fractal complexity. And they are guardians. They stand with the sisters. Sunflowers, sunflowers, sunflowers. Thank you for your care in finding little sunflower seedlings all around the campus and moving them and watering them every day so that they can also protect the garden. Please, dear Sangha, in this room and in the wider circle of kinship, plant life this weekend yourself. Take a sunflower seed. Make sure it isn't salted and cracked open and hulled or doused with all kinds of proper products like brewer's yeast or soy sauce. No, take a pure sunflower seed, crack open the shell. Don't even crack open the shell, and entrust it to the ground. Wherever you are, if you're joining us this weekend, also plant life in your own way. Find a way to do that, and work for the well-being of this Saha world. Now, let me close, please, with one of my favorite poems. Please listen. It's dedicated to sunflower. What sower walked over earth? Which hand sowed inward seeds of fire? They went out from human fists like rainbow curves to frozen earth, to young loam, to hot New Mexico sand. And they will sleep there greedily and drink up our lives for the sake of a sunflower that you haven't seen. They will drink up our lives and explode it into pieces. They will sleep there greedily, drink up our lives, and explode our lives into pieces for the sake of a sunflower you haven't seen, or a chrysanthemum, or a thistlehead. Let the young rain of tears come. Let the calm hands of grief come. You know, it's not as evil as we think. When human codes and established organizing principles are no longer valid, get used to, let yourself become unused to how it was. So when human codes and established organizing principles are no longer valid, then only disintegration may allow for a more adaptive and resilient sense of inner being to emerge from calamity. These are words that I gave to Joanna Macy as a gift. She asked for my insight into positive disintegration. So in honor of her book, which is beautifully edited by Stephanie Kaza, who will also be joining us this weekend, this is a tribute to positive disintegration. And from Roshi, closing words. When systems break down, they have the capacity to reorganize and come back stronger. That's kincentric practice. That's being in right relationship. That's enacting the Dharma. And that's coming home to the table with all beings, calling hungry hearts and sitting down and sharing the feast. That's our work this weekend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Upai, and let's close with the 4 vows.